The first day Mira Thorne stepped onto the training grounds of the Varixen Military Institute, everything about her screamed, different. She was human, the only human in a sea of aliens. Some were tall and covered in scales, others floated without legs, and a few looked like walking trees. They had claws, tentacles, horns, and glowing eyes. And then there was Mira, a young woman from Earth standing only 5.5 feet tall with plain brown hair tied tightly behind her head. Her uniform fit awkwardly, her equipment looked outdated, and her nervous eyes scanned the unfamiliar world around her. The Varixen Institute was the most elite military academy in the galaxy. It trained the future leaders, tacticians, and soldiers of the Galactic Alliance. To be accepted, a cadet had to pass extreme physical, mental, and genetic tests. Most cadets came from warrior races, species bred for battle, with centuries of combat experience in their blood. Mira? She came from a planet still new to the Alliance, a planet whose greatest war had ended with nuclear weapons and political negotiations. When Mira arrived, some cadets laughed openly. Others just stared, as if wondering whether this was a joke. A few even whispered insults in their native tongues, but the tone was clear. To them, Mira wasn't a real cadet. She was a test, a symbol, or worse, a mistake. But Mira didn't flinch. She didn't argue or fight back. She kept her eyes forward, shoulders straight, and followed orders. Her first morning began with an introduction from the Academy commander, a tall and fearsome alien named Gorvak, who had fought in 12 galactic wars. His voice boomed as he welcomed the cadets. "You are not here because you are strong. You are here to prove you are stronger than every weakness in your body. We do not care where you come from. We care where you will stand when the battle ends." Mira felt a flicker of hope at his words, but it didn't last. The training started. Immediately. Physical tests that pushed cadets to collapse. Gravity chambers that switched from light to crushing in seconds. Obstacle courses filled with electric shocks, acid spray, and fire-breathing drones. Mira wasn't the fastest or the strongest. She finished most exercises last. She fell, she bled, and every time she stood back up, she saw the smirks of the other cadets. One cadet, a muscular Krellian with red skin and golden eyes, made a habit of walking past her and saying, "Still alive, Earth girl? You humans are hard to kill. That's the only thing I like about you." His name was Trax, and Mira quickly learned he was one of the top cadets, strong, aggressive, and feared. He wasn't impressed by Mira, but at least he wasn't pretending she didn't exist. The instructors didn't go easy on her either. One of them, an insect-like alien named Velitak, was particularly cruel. She often gave Mira extra laps, harder tasks, and sarcastic comments. "Maybe you Earthlings think war is a video game," she hissed during one sparring class. "Do you bleed pixels, Cadet Thorne?" Mira never talked back. She knew she wasn't their equal, yet. So she studied. Every night, while other cadets rested or bragged about their victories, Mira stayed up reading combat manuals, studying the biology of her fellow cadets, and watching old battle footage. She memorized weak points, analyzed movement patterns, and developed her own style of fighting. Less brute force, more smart choices. Despite her effort, it was clear Mira was alone. No one invited her to team drills. During group meals, she sat at the end of the table, her tray mostly untouched. She missed Earth, its food, its sun, its air that didn't smell like metal and fuel. But most of all, she missed being treated like a person, not a problem. The worst moment came during a simulation drill called Last Stand. Each cadet had to defend a base from waves of attackers while managing resources and commanding automated troops. Mira's simulation began, and immediately her command system glitched. The computer wouldn't recognize her orders. When she reported the issue, the instructor said coldly, "Adapt or fail." Mira took a deep breath. Instead of panicking, she used manual controls, redirected power manually to shield generators, and repurposed drone parts to build new defenses. She lasted 27 minutes, longer than many cadets who had functioning systems. But when the simulation ended, the report, Just said, partial pass, unit failure. As Mira walked out, she heard a cadet mutter, "Should have sent a real soldier." That night, Mira sat on her bunk, exhausted and bruised. She looked at the long list of tests ahead: combat trials, survival missions, tactical evaluations, and wondered if she could really survive here. Part of her wanted to quit, to go home where no one treated her like a joke. But a bigger part of her burned with determination. If she left, they'd all say, "See? Humans aren't ready." She couldn't let that happen. The next day, something unexpected happened. During a class on zero-gravity movement, a cadet from a heavy-gravity planet lost control and crashed into a power panel. A small explosion knocked him out and sent sparks flying. The emergency systems failed. Instructors hadn't yet arrived. While others panicked or floated away, Mira pulled herself toward the cadet, stabilized his position, and performed emergency field treatment using just a first aid kit and parts from her own suit. When the instructors arrived, Mira had already restored power and secured the area. No one clapped, no one cheered. But one instructor, a quiet reptilian named Sarvek, gave her a long look and a short nod. It wasn't much, but it meant something. After that, a few small things changed. Some cadets stopped mocking her, others simply ignored her less. One even asked her how she knew how to repair a power cell so quickly. Mira explained she used to work with old generators back on Earth. She smiled politely, but inside she felt a spark of pride. Every evening, she continued her solo training. She practiced in the simulator when no one was watching, sometimes replaying the same battle 20 times until she found a better strategy. She studied alien movements, how the Zenthari charged without looking, how the Solari preferred ranged attacks, how the Krellians hesitated before using their second arm in close combat. Mira couldn't outpunch them, but she could outthink them. One day, during a tactical exercise involving team coordination, Mira's group was assigned the lowest score. Her teammates blamed her. "We lost because we had the Earth Girl," one snapped. Mira didn't argue. Instead, she quietly requested the exercise be replayed with her in command. The instructors allowed it. Most thought it would be a disaster. It wasn't. Mira gave simple but clever orders. She split the team, used terrain to their advantage, and anticipated enemy positions with eerie accuracy. Her team won the simulation, not by brute strength, but by using the enemy's own strategies against them. Still, praise didn't come easily. The academy was built on tradition, pride, and blood. A human cadet breaking expectations didn't sit well with many. But some began to notice. Mira was still alone, still mocked, still doubted, but a quiet shift had started. Her name wasn't followed by laughter every time. Mira didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning. The beginning of a change that would shake the entire academy, and later the galaxy. For now, she just tightened her boots, rolled her sore shoulders, and prepared for the next trial. Because deep inside, Mira Thorne knew something the others didn't. She wasn't here to prove humans could survive. She was here to prove they could lead, and she was just getting started. Mira's second phase at the Varixon Military Institute was much harder than the first. She had survived the initial shock of being the only human cadet, and even managed to gain a little respect after the emergency power incident. But the real test was just beginning. The training became tougher every day. The instructors expected more, and the other cadets watched her like a hawk, waiting for her to fail. The academy was a place where only the strongest survived, and the pressure was crushing. The days started before sunrise and ended long after the stars came out. Every morning, Mira woke up before dawn in the small dormitory room she shared with other cadets. The walls were cold and bare, filled with the faint hum of distant machines. She never really felt at home here. The food was strange. Some meals tasted like bitter metal, others were slimy or too spicy for her earth palate. But hunger forced her to eat, even if it made her stomach churn. The physical training was brutal. Some days the instructors forced cadets to run on the gravity tracks, long loops where gravity was increased to twice or thrice Earth's pull. Mira's muscles screamed in protest. Her lungs burned and her feet felt like lead. Every step was a fight, but she never gave up. The Krellian cadet Trax was always there, running effortlessly beside her, mocking her with cruel jokes. "Come on, Earth Girl. You're slower than a newborn larva," he jeered. Some other cadets laughed. Others just watched. Mira didn't respond. She knew anger would only waste her energy. After running, there were obstacle courses filled with challenges. Walls to climb, pits to jump over, electrified nets to crawl under. The instructors designed these courses to break the will of even the toughest cadets. One day, Mira tried a new tactic. Instead of rushing through, she studied each obstacle carefully. She noticed that many cadets wasted energy by trying to jump over high walls. Mira climbed slowly, using handholds and footholds that others ignored. It took her longer, but she completed the course without falling once. Some cadets whispered, "She's slow, but she doesn't quit." It was not a compliment they gave often, but for Mira, it felt like a small victory. Mental training was even tougher. The academy didn't just train muscles and reflexes, it trained minds. Each cadet had to pass tests that challenged memory, problem-solving, and emotional control. Mira found these tests terrifying. The questions were about alien cultures she barely understood. The puzzles required knowledge of star navigation, ancient languages, and complex algorithms. She often failed. But she learned quickly that failure was just another step forward. Instead of feeling discouraged, she spent nights in the library studying. She made friends with the AI librarian, a holographic tutor that helped her understand difficult subjects. Slowly, her scores improved. One instructor named Sarvek noticed her progress. Unlike Velitak, who was harsh and cruel, Sarvek was quiet but fair. He sometimes gave her extra lessons, teaching her how to read alien battle tactics and advanced weapon systems. Mira respected him, even though he rarely spoke more than a few words at a time. He was like a shadow, always watching, always judging, but never dismissing her. His approval meant more than the praise of any cadet. Despite all her hard work, Mira was still lonely. Other cadets stayed away. During team missions, they ignored her advice. During downtime, they avoided sitting with her. Mira understood she was different, but inside, she felt something stronger than loneliness. It was determination. She wanted to show them she belonged, not just as a human, but as a soldier. One day, the Academy held a survival simulation in the harsh desert planet of Jaran. This test was legendary. Cadets were dropped into a vast wasteland with only basic supplies. They had to survive for 3 days while completing tasks that tested their resourcefulness, teamwork, and combat skills. Most cadets formed teams with their species. The Krellians stuck together, the Zenthari formed packs, and the Solari moved silently in pairs. Mira had no one. The simulation began. The scorching sun burned the sand. Water was scarce. Hostile creatures roamed. The challenge was designed to push cadets to the edge of their limits and beyond. Mira moved cautiously, avoiding dangerous animals and setting traps to catch small creatures for food. She remembered survival techniques from Earth: how to find water under rocks, how to signal for help using mirrors, how to use desert plants for medicine. These old skills saved her when others struggled. Her solitude turned to advantage. While groups argued or fought, Mira stayed quiet, observing. She noticed paths animals avoided, hidden springs, and safe spots. When other teams crossed her path, she helped a wounded Krellian cadet without expecting anything in return. Her kindness was surprising to many, and some began to see her not as a weakling, but as resourceful and brave. On the last day of the IM simulation, Mira was alone, thirsty, and exhausted. She had lost most of her supplies but had managed to build a crude shelter. Suddenly, a group of hostile creatures attacked. Mira grabbed her training weapon and defended herself with quick, precise moves. The fight was intense and her arms burned with fatigue, but she didn't back down. She remembered every lesson, every strategy she had studied. When help finally arrived, the instructors found her standing over the defeated creatures, battered, but victorious. The Academy report was surprising. Mira's survival score was one of the highest. She had not only survived but had outsmarted many teams who had superior numbers and gear. Her strategy, endurance, and calm under pressure were praised. Some cadets, who had doubted her from the start, began to whisper her name with a mix of respect and disbelief. But not everyone was happy. Trax, the Krellian cadet who mocked her from the beginning, was furious. "You got lucky," he spat during the debrief. "Humans don't belong here. This was a fluke." Mira didn't respond. She knew luck had nothing to do with it. After the simulation, something changed inside Mira. She realized that strength was not just physical power or sharp claws. It was patience, intelligence, and heart. She was no longer just surviving. She was beginning to thrive. That night, Mira sat alone in her room, tired but smiling. She pulled out a worn photo of her family on Earth. They had believed in her when no one else did. She whispered a promise to them, to prove that humans could stand tall among the stars. She didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but Mira was ready. The academy was tough, the enemies were strong, and the path was uncertain. But she had something no one else had. The will to keep going even when the whole galaxy thought she was a joke, and that was just the beginning of the story that would change everything. The time had finally come for the combat trials at the Varexan Military Institute. This was the moment all cadets trained for, a series of intense tests designed to push every soldier to their limits. The trials were not just about strength or speed. They measured skill, intelligence, teamwork, and the ability to adapt in the heat of battle. For Mira Thorne, the human cadet who had been laughed at and doubted since day one, this was her chance to prove what she was truly capable of. The day before the trials, the academy buzzed with nervous energy. Cadets sharpened their weapons, checked their gear, and ran last-minute drills. In the crowded halls, Mira kept to herself, quietly reviewing combat strategies she had memorized over the months. Unlike most cadets who relied on their species' natural abilities or genetic enhancements, Mira's strength was her mind, her ability to think fast and see angles others missed. The trials began with a solo combat challenge. Each cadet was placed in a random environment, sometimes a dense jungle, other times a dark urban ruin, or a zero-gravity chamber. The goal was simple but deadly: defeat all opponents and complete the mission objectives without dying. The environments were filled with traps, enemy drones, and unpredictable hazards. Mira's first trial was in a rocky canyon on the desert moon of Xylar. The sun was harsh, the wind carried sharp sand, and the terrain was rugged and uneven. She quickly assessed the environment. Instead of charging straight into the fight like some of her competitors, she moved cautiously, using rocks and shadows to hide. When enemy drones scanned the area, she stayed still, blending into the dusty landscape. Her opponents were species, much stronger than her, tall warriors from the Krellian race with powerful arms and thick armor, swift and sharp-eyed Zenthari who could jump incredible distances, and even Solari archers who fired deadly energy bolts from afar. Against these natural advantages, Mira had only her Earth training and her sharp mind. She used a mix of Earth-style guerrilla tactics, like hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and traps made from the environment. At one point, she led a group of Krellian warriors into a narrow canyon where their heavy armor slowed them down. Then, she triggered a small rock slide that blocked their retreat and separated them. One by one, she disabled them with quick strikes aimed at joints and weak spots. Every move was precise, every decision deliberate. She didn't fight like the others who relied on raw power. She fought like a chess player, thinking 3 steps ahead. Her combat suit, though less advanced than some alien models, was modified with clever Earth inventions: silent sensors, magnetic boots for climbing, and small EMP grenades that disabled enemy drones temporarily. When the trial ended, the instructors' faces showed surprise. Mira had not just survived, she had outperformed many of the Academy's best cadets. Her combat score shattered records for tactical evaluation and adaptive thinking, 2 of the hardest categories to excel in. While other cadets boasted about their brute force, Mira's results told a different story, one of intelligence, creativity, and calm under pressure. The academy halls soon buzzed with whispers. Did you see how the human cadet moved? She's like a ghost. It's almost like she's rewriting the rules. Even some instructors who had been skeptical started reviewing her combat footage late into the night. The next phase was team combat. This was where most cadets relied on their species' strength and numbers. Teams were formed randomly to force cadets to work with different species, languages, and tactics. Mira was placed with a diverse group, a Krellian named Trax, a Zenthari, scout, and a Solari engineer. At first, the team didn't trust her. Trax, still holding a grudge from earlier encounters, ignored her advice and took the lead with reckless charges. The Zenthari was suspicious, barely speaking to her. The Solari engineer focused on repairing gear and avoided conflict. The team was uncoordinated, making mistakes and losing ground in early skirmishes. Mira knew that to survive, she had to lead. She stepped up quietly, calling a brief strategy meeting between rounds. Using simple hand gestures and broken common language, she explained her plan. Use the environment, split the enemy, and cover each other's weaknesses. She assigned roles based on each cadet's skills, reminding them to watch each other's backs. Slowly, the team began to work together. Trax listened, if only grudgingly. The Zenthari scout used his speed to flank enemies. The Solari engineer set traps and healed injuries. Mira directed the flow of battle, calling out enemy positions and suggesting maneuvers. Their teamwork improved dramatically. They won their final match by outsmarting the opposing team, using the terrain to trap and confuse their enemies. The victory was a turning point. Trax gave Mira a nod of respect, a rare sign of approval. The Zenthari smiled for the first time during the trials. The Solari engineer clapped her hands in excitement. Mira's combat scores for the team trials were off the charts. She had not only survived the most difficult challenges, but had also helped her team win against overwhelming odds. News of her performance spread quickly throughout the academy, but success brought new challenges. Some elite cadets, jealous and angry, accused Mira of cheating. Commander Trax, though now an ally, was pulled into the drama because of his previous rivalry with her. The academy officials launched investigations, reviewing every piece of combat footage and testing her gear for hidden advantages. Mira welcomed the scrutiny. She knew she hadn't cheated. Everything she had used was allowed, just different. Her tactics came from Earth, a planet far away and unknown to most. Her ability to think differently was her true advantage. Meanwhile, Mira formed friendships with some cadets who admired her courage and skill. She started training in alien combat techniques, learning to use new weapons and adapt to unfamiliar fighting styles. In return, she taught others about Earth's unique methods, how to use environment cleverly, how to coordinate small teams, and how to remain calm under pressure. The academy was changing. The idea of a human cadet being just a joke was fading. Mira's victories in the combat trials proved that strength came in many forms, not just muscle or weapons, but mind and spirit. She showed everyone that even a newcomer from a small blue planet could compete with the galaxy's fiercest warriors. But Mira knew her journey was far from over. The trials were only the beginning. The real battles, those that would decide the fate of planets and empires, awaited her in the future. For now, she stood taller, no longer the outsider, but a respected soldier. The echo of her footsteps in the academy halls was no longer met with laughter. Instead, it carried the weight of a new legend, one that was only just beginning to be written. Let me know if you want me to continue with Part 4, or if you want any changes. The moment Mira had been working toward had arrived, the final and most feared test of the Varixon Military Institute, the Grand Combat Tournament. This was not just a test of skill or strength, but a battle where the best cadets faced off in a series of fights to prove who was the strongest, smartest, and most fearless warrior. It was the ultimate challenge, watched by commanders, instructors, and sometimes even leaders from distant star systems. Winning or losing here could change a cadet's entire future. Mira entered the arena with her heart pounding. The giant stadium was packed with thousands of spectators, including cadets, instructors, and military officials from across the galaxy. Huge hollow screens hovered over the crowd, broadcasting every move to those who couldn't be there in person. The air buzzed with excitement and tension. For years, Mira had been the underdog, a human in a world of aliens with super strength, multiple arms, or strange powers. Many still doubted her, but now, after surviving months of brutal training and tough combat trials, she had something they couldn't ignore: skill and determination. Her first opponent was a towering Krellian warrior named Draxor, known for his aggressive style and crushing strength. The crowd roared when the two stepped into the arena. Draxor sneered, ready to crush the human who had shocked everyone. But Mira stayed calm. She remembered all her training, the strategies she had learned, the tricks she had discovered. This fight was about brains and heart, not just brawn. As the fight started, Draxor charged with powerful blows that could shatter stone. Mira dodged, rolling across the dusty ground, using her smaller size to her advantage. She knew she couldn't face him head-on. Instead, she baited him, making him overextend his attacks. Then, with lightning speed, she struck weak points, joints, knees, and the gaps in his armor. The crowd gasped as Mira danced around the giant warrior. She used the arena itself as a weapon, leaping over rocks, hiding behind pillars, and even triggering a trap that sent Draxor stumbling into a pit. It was a smart, careful fight, and the Krellian's frustration grew. Finally, with one swift move, Mira disarmed him and pinned him down. The arena erupted in cheers, and even Draxor had to nod in respect. Mira had won her first fight against one of the strongest cadets in the academy. Her next match was even harder. She faced a Zenthari, scout named Lyra, fast and deadly with her twin blades. Unlike Draxor, Lyra's style was quick and graceful. She moved like a shadow, striking from all directions. The fight was intense, with both warriors exchanging blows and near misses. Mira had to rely on her quick thinking and reflexes to keep. During the fight, Mira remembered a trick from Earth's martial arts, using the opponent's energy against them. When Lyra attacked aggressively, Mira didn't resist. Instead, she stepped aside and used Lyra's momentum to throw her off balance. The crowd watched in amazement as the human cadet, so often underestimated, held her own against the swift Zenthari. But the battles took a toll. After 2 fights, Mira's body was bruised and sore. Her muscles ached and her breathing was heavy. Yet she felt stronger inside. Every challenge had sharpened her resolve. She was no longer just fighting for herself, but for everyone who had believed in her. In the following matches, Mira faced opponents with strange and terrifying powers. One had the ability to control energy fields, creating barriers or firing blasts. Another had multiple arms and could attack from several directions at once. Each fight tested a different skill: strategy, endurance, speed, or courage. Mira learned to adapt quickly. She used her environment, tools, and clever thinking to counter every challenge. Sometimes she had to retreat and regroup, finding new ways to strike back. Her Earth tactics combined with her alien training made her unpredictable. Throughout the tournament, the crowd's attitude toward Mira changed. The same people who had once laughed at the human joke now cheered her name. They saw a fighter who never gave up, who used her mind as much as her body, and who inspired others by her determination. But not everyone was happy. Some elite cadets, unable to accept their defeat, whispered in dark corners, plotting ways to undermine Mira. Commander Trax, once her rival and later her reluctant teammate, warned her about these dangers. "They don't want to see you win," he said quietly. "Be ready for anything." One night, as Mira rested in her quarters, she found a message, an anonymous warning to watch her back during the next fight. It was a reminder that in the academy and in war, the fight was never just physical. There were politics, secrets, and betrayals lurking beneath the surface. The final round of the tournament was against Velitak, the academy's top cadet and a brutal fighter known for crushing all opposition without mercy. The entire academy held its breath as the two warriors faced off. Velitak sneered, confident that he would end the human experiment once and for all. The fight was fierce and fast. Velitak attacked with heavy blows and vicious strikes, pushing Mira to the edge. But Mira's months of training had prepared her. She dodged, countered, and waited for the perfect moment. The battle stretched on, neither willing to give up. Finally, using a combination of speed and strategy, Mira exploited a weakness in Velitok's armor and delivered a decisive blow. The arena fell silent for a moment, then exploded with cheers. Mira had won. The joke human was now the champion of the Grand Combat Tournament. The victory changed everything. The commanders awarded Mira a rare honor, the title of Elite Cadet, and an invitation to join the prestigious Phyrexian Special Forces. The alien cadets who had once doubted her now looked at her with respect and admiration. But Mira knew this was just the start. The universe was full of dangers far greater than the Academy's arena. Her journey from a joke to a champion had taught her that strength was not about species or power alone. It was about heart, intelligence, and the will to keep fighting no matter what. She looked out at the stars beyond the Academy walls, ready for whatever came next. The battle for her place in the galaxy was won, but the real war was just beginning. Let me know when you want me to explain Part 5 or if you want any changes. After Mira's stunning victory in the Grand Combat Tournament, life at the Phyrexian Military Institute changed dramatically for her. She was no longer the human joke or the outsider. Now she was recognized as an elite cadet, a symbol of hope and proof that determination and intelligence could overcome even the biggest obstacles. But this new status came with new challenges, both on and off the battlefield. The days after the tournament were filled with endless training sessions, special lessons, and meetings with the Academy's top commanders. Mira was invited to join the Phyrexian Special Forces, an elite group of warriors who took on the toughest missions in the galaxy. This was a huge honor, but also a serious responsibility. The Special Forces were the ones sent into the most dangerous zones, conflict planets, rebel territories, and places where peace was fragile at best. Mira's training intensified. Now, she wasn't just learning how to fight for survival or win battles in a controlled environment. She had to prepare for real wars, missions where lives were at stake, and every decision could mean the difference between victory and disaster. She learned to use advanced weapons, pilot combat ships, and coordinate with teams from various alien races, each with their own languages, cultures, and fighting styles. One of the biggest changes Mira faced was learning how to trust others. During her early days at the Academy, she had been alone, fighting not just enemies but also prejudice and doubt. Now, in the Special Forces, teamwork was everything. Missions could only succeed if everyone worked together, trusted each other, and shared information freely. Her team was diverse. Trax, the tough Krellian warrior who once mocked her but now respected her. Lyra, the swift and silent Zenthari scout. Jex, a Solari engineer with a sharp mind and quiet humor, and several others from different species. Each brought unique skills, but also different ways of thinking and acting. Sometimes, cultural misunderstandings caused tension, but Mira's calm and open mind helped the team grow stronger together. Their first mission as a team came sooner than expected. A small but strategic planet called Noril was under threat. Rebel forces had taken control of key bases, threatening to disrupt trade routes and cause chaos in the nearby systems. The Special Forces were sent in to gather intelligence, sabotage enemy supplies, and support local resistance groups. Mira's heart raced as they prepared to leave the safety of the Academy. This was not a training exercise, it was real war. The stakes were higher than anything she had faced before. On Noril, the team moved carefully through dense forests and abandoned cities. The rebels were dangerous and unpredictable. Mira's training helped her keep calm in tense situations. She used her Earth-learned skills, stealth, quick thinking, and patience to avoid traps and outsmart enemy patrols. One night, the team camped in a ruined village. Mira sat by the fire thinking about how far she had come. She remembered the early days when she was laughed at and ignored. Now, she was part of something bigger, a force fighting for peace in a chaotic galaxy. The next day, the team split into two groups to complete their objectives. Mira led her group to disable a communications tower controlled by the rebels. The mission was risky. The tower was heavily guarded, and failure meant capture or death. As they approached, Mira noticed unusual patterns in the guards' movements. Using a combination of silent signals and gestures, she coordinated her team to avoid detection. They climbed walls, crawled through tunnels, and moved like shadows under the moonlight. At one point, they encountered a group of enemy soldiers. Instead of fighting head-on, Mira ordered a diversion. Lyra created a noise in the opposite direction, drawing the guards away. Mira and her team quickly reached the tower, planted explosives, and set timers. The explosion was loud but controlled. The tower was destroyed, cutting off the rebels' communication for hours. The mission was a success, but it also signaled the start of a bigger conflict. The rebels would retaliate, and the special forces had to be ready. As the war on Narration escalated, Mira's leadership and combat skills were tested like never before. In battles against better-armed and more experienced enemies, she used everything she had learned, from Earth survival skills to alien combat tactics, to keep her team alive and achieve their goals. Her reputation grew. News of the human warrior who led successful missions spread across planets. People saw her as a symbol that even the smallest, most underestimated beings could change the course of history. But Mira never forgot the cost of war. She lost friends and comrades along the way. Each loss hit her deeply, reminding her that victory was never free. She learned to carry the weight of responsibility, to honor those who sacrificed everything. Through these trials, Mira also grew as a person. She found moments of joy and friendship amidst the chaos. She laughed with her team during rare, quiet times, shared stories about Earth, and listened to the histories of her alien friends. These bonds became her strength. After months of fighting on Norel and other conflict zones, the war began to turn. The rebels lost ground, their leaders captured or defeated. Mira's team was hailed as heroes, and the galaxy started to believe that peace was possible. Mira returned to the academy for a short time, but she was no longer the same cadet who arrived unsure and alone. She was a warrior, a leader, and a beacon of hope. Her story was told as an example of courage and determination, a human who had faced impossible odds and changed the galaxy's future. Looking up at the stars one night, Mira felt a deep sense of purpose. Her journey was far from over. The universe was vast, with many more battles to fight, mysteries to solve, and lives to protect. But she knew that no matter what came next, she had the strength, the skill, and the heart to face it. Her story was no longer a joke. It was a legend, one that inspired countless others to believe in themselves no matter where they came from or how small they seemed. And so the human cadet who had once been laughed at became a hero who changed everything. Let me know if you want me to help with something else or if you want me to polish or add anything.